It's time to let the awesomeness begin. Because Kung Fu Panda is back in theaters, baby. With the latest installment, it's once again time to use our morality scale to break down the good, the bad, and the furry? I'm Kyle with WickedBinge, and this is Kung Fu Panda 4 characters, good to evil. As usual, let's start with our best, brightest, and most heroic, and kick things off with the good section. Without a doubt, our gold medal of good has to go to the Kung Fu Panda himself, Po. Even after 4 films and a handful of side stories, Po still remains his lovable and heroic self, protecting others and doing what he can to save the world.
Attention, mysterious figure! The Dragon Warrior's here to perform justice!
This time around, Po has to deal with letting go of his Dragon Warrior title in order to fully become the Valley's next spiritual leader. For this, we have to give him the Pride Medal, as while Po may not be extremely egotistical, him putting so much stock in his Dragon Master title is what ends up inadvertently leading to the chameleon nearly winning in the end. While he's reluctant to give up this role, we aren't going to dock him too many points, as once he realizes how badly he messed up by holding onto his role, he immediately takes it upon himself to try and fix things, even if it means potentially getting himself killed. He's also a great influence on his new protege Zen, being kind to her and eventually giving her the motivation to leave the chameleon and try to be a hero instead of just a tricky thief. He may be a bit silly at times, but the panda's got a stomach full of dumplings and a heart of gold. And moving on to our silver medal of good, we have Po's adopted dad, Mr. Ping. Once again, Mr. Ping is definitely the MVP both in terms of Kung Fu Panda characters and DreamWorks dads in general. While he may be a bit more neurotic in this installment, being extra worried for his son given how powerful people claim the chameleon to be, he's still just as supportive as ever, after Po's staff is stolen, while Ping agrees that, yeah, it's a pretty big screw-up. He also takes the time to comfort Po and tell him how changes don't always have to be a bad or scary thing.
Why do you think I always change the menu at the restaurant?
Sometimes they can be good or simply keep life feeling exciting. With the main example of this that Ping brings up is when he became a father, which is really sweet. Afterwards, while we don't see him or Lee do much of the fighting, they still play a part in assuring that their makeshift army of thieves is able to take down a good chunk of the chameleon's army. Right behind him is Po's other dad and our bronze medal of good winner, Li Shan. While Mr. Ping may wear his nervous nature on his sleeve, Lee at times tries to keep calm, all while trying to keep his new business partner and co-parent calm as well. However, even Lee can't hide his protective dad side forever, and when he and Ping go out to try and find Po, it's often Ping who has to act as the fake muscle in order to keep them both out of danger.
Hold me, Ping!
He can be a bit clumsy about it, but hey, he's trying his best. Still, we unfortunately have to give him the Darwin Medal, since a few of these attempts at being tough and warrior-like are done in a pretty dumb way, like how he ends up giving himself splinters or knocking out a few of his own teeth. And much like Mr. Ping, Lee is still just as much of a loving and supportive dad as he was in the last movie, trying to be there for his son whenever he needs him. Heck, just the fact that he was willing to permanently leave the hidden panda village says a lot about how badly he wants to be in Po's life, without taking his son away from the home he's grown up in and sworn to protect. It's great having protective yet supportive parents, but sometimes we need that not-so-gentle push, and that's where Master Shifu, the final member of the good tier, comes in. Shifu is the one insisting that Po must find a protege and move on to the final step of his training for the sake of the Valley of Peace. While he still obviously respects Po and is just trying to encourage him to do the right thing for both himself and the Valley.
Oogway chose you as his successor, and now you must choose yours.
Shifu is also more than a little pushy and often gets frustrated with Po's reluctance. He also isn't afraid to show his shock and mild disapproval at the end of the film when he learns that Po chose Zen to be the next Dragon Warrior. Though, despite his mixed emotions at Po's choice, he ultimately lets it be, once again showing the respect he has for a student, even if he doesn't always understand him. As such, we're sure he'll warm up to Zen eventually too. And that wraps up our good section, which brings us into more neutral territory. These characters fall somewhere in between good and bad. Welcome to the gray area. And starting out this tier is Po's new protege, Zen. While she may be a bit rough around the edges at the start, we see her try to steal several priceless kung fu artifacts from the Jade Palace.
Oh no! No, he's got a walking stick. What are you gonna do, stroll me to death?
Later on, we again see her lack of morals during the scene in Granny Boar's Cliffside restaurant, where she hustles Granny and several others, and then tries to steal a bunch of coin bags during her and Poe's fight with the restaurant's array of rough customers. But of course, Zen's worst moment is when it's revealed that she had been tricking Poe the whole time, leading him into a position where she could get his staff for the chameleon. We should note, however, that Zen immediately regrets this due to the friendship she and Poe have built up by that point. After she discovers Poe is still alive, she puts her all into trying to stop Poe from facing the chameleon again, not wanting him to be killed, and then chooses to fight by his side during the climax.
You sound surprised. Is it surprising?
Though a tad predictable, it's still a really nice arc to see play out. And you understand that Zen was never a truly bad character. She was just trying to survive and was taught by really bad influences. We can't overlook her crimes, but we are willing to give her a chance and are excited to see how she comes into her own as the Valley of Peace's newest hero in training. Now, we wanted to take a brief moment to talk about the minor but still helpful character of Captain Fish. Captain Fish is, well, a fish. He mostly stays in the mouth of his pelican mom, and though he mostly tries to stay out of trouble, for a steep price he'll offer you a ride to Juniper City on his boat. He does try to charge Poe triple for the ride, but eventually just settles for double, which we suppose is something, I guess. He's pretty surly, much like most sea captains you see in movies, but he still does his job well and gets Poe and Zen to Juniper City without any issue, even if he admittedly isn't the best at docking his boat. Later on, we see him try to tell Mr. Ping and Lee that he has seen Poe, and likely would have offered them a bit of extra information. Too bad they were unable to understand him, but I guess it's the thought that counts. It's always great when you get a full redemption arc, but sometimes even a small showing of respect can go a long way. With that in mind, our surprising next entry is Tai Lung. Okay, yeah, the trailers and posters kinda made it seem like Tai Lung was gonna play a much bigger role in the movie. In reality, we only see him in the movie's climax, and even then, he's stuck in a cage most of the time. Credit to Tai Lung, while we're sure he wouldn't care that much about putting others in danger, he does still refuse to willingly give the chameleon his kung fu skills, forcing her to take it from him. Shortly after, he makes a point of telling Poe that Oogway chose poorly and that Poe really screwed up this time. Still, he thankfully isn't able to discourage Poe too much, so this is more just him being a jerk than him being an active antagonist. But beyond Tai Lung just not doing much in general, what allows him to get a decent spot in the gray tier is the moment after the final fight, where he actually gives Poe his respect. He's even the one to lead the others in the grand bow towards Poe. Additionally, Tai Lung is also the one to keep a hold of the chameleon and drag her to the spirit realm. All in all, he may not be the nicest guy around, but he's definitely no longer as much of a villain, at least not in this instance. Now, keeping with our not-so-bad criminals, up next is Han. He's a pangolin who leads an underground group of thieves and was the one to take Zen in when she was a young fox. Naturally, this made her decision to leave the group behind and work for the chameleon all the more of a betrayal, to the point where Han and his crew want to beat Zen up when she returns to their hideout. Still, the fact that Han is willing to cut Zen some slack and allow her and Poe to stay until the coast is clear shows that he may still have a soft side for her. Then again, each time he chooses to help Poe and Zen, he specifically does so under the guise that if he does good now, he can do something more bad and violent later.
Or slow and painful.
With the rest of his crew having a similar mindset. Still, while he may not have the most pure motivations when it comes to helping out, making it very clear that he's only helping take out the chameleon because it would be beneficial for him and the rest of the thieves, he still plays a major role in the fight against the chameleon's army, and we do feel that that counts for something. Now, just barely keeping out of the bad tier is our final entry in the gray, the Bunny Triplets. We actually had a hard time deciding whether or not these guys qualified for the bad section. To call them chaotic and completely rabid is practically an understatement. In every scene with these three, they're gleefully hurting others, either through their pranks or through their own sharp teeth and claws. They attack without warning and then laugh about it afterwards, emphasizing how much they see violence and crime as just a fun game. In all honesty, all of this would probably easily earn them a spot in the bad section under different circumstances. Still, these guys are just little kids, so there's an argument to be made that they could eventually grow out of all this. What's more, much like Zen and Han, they also help just enough in the climax of the movie that we're able to cut them just a bit of slack, even if we can't completely overlook their rabidness. Still, maybe someone should get these guys into a school or something. Maybe that one prison/daycare that Poe briefly mentioned, as they could probably use some additional structure as well as some more positive influences. We finally arrived at the true bad guys of the bunch. These characters are the bad and the evil. Taking our silver medal of evil is another minor character, Granny Boar. She's the manager of the Happy Bunny restaurant, and let's just say she's not exactly world's greatest boss material. Not only is she the only antagonist we meet who doesn't come back in the climax to help in the fight against the chameleon, but she's also just a really terrible person in general. She treats her bunny waitstaff terribly, to the point of forcing one to sit in a pot of broth as he stirs it, making it clear that she could very easily turn him into that day's special if he angers her enough. Given how she forces these bunnies to do all the work without giving them proper compensation or even some basic appreciation, we have to give her the sloth medal alongside the silver medal for evil. She also allows her customers to treat her waitstaff poorly, allowing them to throw knives at the bunnies and steal their tips. And when Mr. Ping tries to stand up to her later on, she just threatens to throw him into the broth pot too.
Keep stirring!
Given the name of the restaurant, it could also be speculated that Granny Boar just stole it from the original bunny owners. Looking at all this, it's really no wonder her staff started cheering when she and the restaurant eventually fell off the cliff and into the ocean. Finally, our gold medal of evil has to go to the franchise's latest big bad, the chameleon. Once seen as too small and not a good fit to learn Kung Fu, the chameleon uses her sorcery and intelligence in the hopes of eventually gaining enough power to where no one could ever underestimate her again.
Who's that?
The most powerful shape-shifting sorceress, the chameleon.
In a way, the chameleon is described as a sort of mirror to Poe in that both characters were underestimated by society for their bodies, but then went on to gain high status. But as Poe says, she had to steal her newfound skills. Furthermore, for all the changing she does on her outside, she still refuses to change on the inside.
I'm the chameleon. I do nothing but change.
Caring so much about vengeance and petty revenge that she doesn't bother trying to find any other path that could potentially make her happy. But even before she starts stealing Kung Fu skills from old villains and masters, the chameleon is already portrayed as a tyrant with a stranglehold on Juniper City, demanding tribute and keeping citizens and thieves alike from making a decent living. These two majorly evil deeds combined earns her our greed medal as well as our envy medal, as her desire to be a Kung Fu master very much comes from her being jealous of those who not only had the skills, but also had the opportunity to train in Kung Fu. We should also mention the relationship with Zen, which very much has those Mother Gothel vibes in that she only ever helped Zen because she saw herself in Zen and, as such, figured she'd be useful to have around. She may have given Zen food and shelter, but she also treated her pretty terribly and later made it clear just how willing she'd be to toss Zen aside if she were to ever stop being the thief she knew Zen to be. For all these reasons, she's easily the most evil character in this fourth installment, though in all honesty, she still can't quite hold a candle to some of the franchise's other villains. But good attempt though.